When I start a track, I'll usually just name it the first random phrase that pops into my head. And for this one, because I was already doodling around with this like 80s sci-fi thing, I was like, what does this make me think of? Well, shredding my Keitar with a giant pink mullet, a la Gemandtheholograms. And the midnight part is just it's the dark part of it. It's sort of like the place between space and looking at the stars and something dark and industrial. And once it drops, it's more like you're in a metal warehouse. You're not out on the spaceship, and you're inside the spaceship instead of out of it. Another thing that you can probably notice is that the searing retro leads, that is an influence that has come back from actually taking up Keitar and playing that at live shows. And that also, of course, spearheaded this vintage retro thing. Is when you start to think about soloing on a Keitar, it definitely changes the way you write. So drums for me, they're always kind of set up the same way. I use battery, or if I'm using Ableton, I'll use drum racks. Anything that kind of puts drum samples into a MIDI format, and that's because I play them in. So it's much easier for me as an audio intuitive person than a visual person to deal with MIDI and playing it. And usually my drums are all sent to a master drum bus that has some kind of analog saturation distortion. I've tried a few different things. I really like the PSP Vintage Warmer, but there's other things like Waves NLS. There's a lot of plugins out there now that are desperately trying to emulate analog warmth, and I am a fan of that sound. So they're always going through that and smashing. For percussive elements, I'm a big fan of layering as well, because I don't really like to use anything straight out of the box, but also using foley and personally recorded sounds. It's like the reverberations and the sounds happening around it that create a rhythm, and I've built entire tracks around that. For this one, there is a water thud kind of sound. And I noticed that these large metal mixing bowls I had, if they had a little water in them and I hit the side of the sink, they would make this weird. So that's just me throwing the metal bowl of water against the sink and pitching it up and down on a sampler, yeah. And adding not even that much effects, because it's got this, like I said, this natural kind of slap back of water sloshing around, and like it's very subtle things like that. And in the end, they'll kind of get buried in a way, but they also will create that natural, unquantized kind of groove that I really like so much. So for this song, it's actually like, I don't know that you would necessarily notice it a ton, but it's kind of almost its own lead element in terms of the percussion. For instance, this dripping marimba. That marimba is a product of me playing around with a marimba sample in Omnisphere, and then the Interspace imprints on top of it. Just to give you an example, they have like, they've textural space transients, so like you can use like a gas flame or rice on a plastic bag or a gas flamed string. And this isn't just names. Like if this is gas flamed string, they have gone out into a field and like lit a string on fire with gasoline and recorded it. I mean, I guess the core of what I'm trying to communicate as an artist right now is that everyone should be communicating more, and we don't have time to go into this like majestic grand scope of the world, but ultimately I think all the problems that we encounter as humans, as artists, as anything, is from a lack of understanding and relating. And never underestimate the power of working with people more or less experienced than you, because that's just a further understanding and collaboration and